Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing live. A bit later than billed, having some technical issues, but as you can see, I've been joined by a new microphone. Got the headphones in. Hopefully, you can all hear me okay. My name's Tony Haggerty, as you know, at a Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C Macdonald on the Twitter handle. It's Tuesday, June the 20th, and Aidan, Brendan Rodgers is back. There you go. Officially announced yesterday. You were busy working behind the scenes, putting all sorts of stuff on the socials. How are you, first and foremost, Aidan? Are you all well?
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. I'm good. Happy to be on today. Obviously, discussing an important appointment. I think it's fair to say. But yeah, no, I'm happy. Yesterday was busy but enjoyable.
And first and foremost, I'll get your reaction to that, Aidan. But give me a second, and I'll just say, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Apologies for the lateness. We were having some real issues with that, but there you go. That's what happens. But as you do every day, we ask you to subscribe to the Celtic Way website, all for the click of a button. You've got unlimited access to everything that's written on the site, and you can subscribe to the Celtic Way and help support top quality football journalism, covering the club you love in the process. Myself, Aidan on the screen there, and Ryan McGinley will endeavour to provide that. Click of a button, guys, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And Pete McGee, yes, Alexander Wilkinson, this is on time in Tony's world. It is indeed. I always say 10 o'clock-ish, but there you go. Now, Aidan, Brendan Rodgers back. Are you happy with that? You delighted with that? You on the ceiling, still having to scrape you off the ceiling, or are you just taking it all in your stride?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, Tony. Ryan and I discussed last week how, in terms of the options that Celtic have a chance of bringing in, if we're going to discount somebody like Graham Potter, who it was always going to be difficult to attract a manager like that, Brendan Rodgers was far and away the best candidate, in my opinion. I know there's obviously the baggage that came with when he left. I know you discussed that yesterday. I'm sure we'll touch on that today at some point. But in managerial ability, in terms of a great coach, a man manager, I think Brendan Rodgers is an excellent appointment, and he's got a phenomenal track record at Celtic. And even though it didn't end that well at Leicester, he had undeniably a strong time overall there, in my opinion. So I was pretty happy with the appointment, Tony, in terms of pure football and ability that the manager possesses.
Yeah, everybody knows my thoughts on it. Yesterday, I gave a bit of a party political broadcast at the start of the briefing yesterday, as I named it, and then turned you over to the Right Honourable Ryan McGinley, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, now what I will say is, I would never dream, and I've often said this, I don't dream of telling Celtic supporters how to support their team. It's up to each and every individual to support the team the way they want to. And with regards to Brendan Rodgers, all I'll say is I'm going to get firmly behind Brendan Rodgers. I've stated that. I've never badmouthed him. I thought he was a wonderful manager. First time round, he won 7 out of 7, and certainly get behind him again. He gave the Celtic supporters some wonderful times when he was in the role the first time, and I'm hoping to see that again. I've made the point about the European football being the benchmark. We'll probably come to that later on. But and I also respect the Green Brigade's right to issue their thoughts on such matters. But what I will say to that is, I was just a bit disappointed. They could have issued a statement, but they could have, and also said that they didn't wish Brendan Rodgers was back at the club. That's fair enough. That's entirely their stance, and it's up to, as I say, every individual's conscience to wrestle with that and see how they feel about Brendan Rodgers. But what I would have liked to have seen from the Green Brigade is for them to say he is now the Celtic manager and we'll get behind him. I don't think any kind of division within Celtic Park is going to be great moving forward. And as I've said, I respect their rights to their own opinions. I just hope that everybody can unite and get behind Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is a Celtic manager, and whatever happens, however long he's here for, Aidan, I just think, me personally as a Celtic supporter, I'm going to get right behind them. It's up to others to do what they want. As I say, I respect their right to protest that Brendan Rodgers coming back. So the scars run deep with some people and their feeling towards it. the way Brendan Rodgers left in February 2019. But I think we're all hard-nosed enough to know that we're in the football match-winning business, Aidan. And if we win football matches, our club will be successful both domestically and in Europe. And that's all we really want, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We should probably clarify that the banner that they put, that the Green Brigade retweeted was, or the North Club, we should say, was the sort of, you traded immortality for mediocrity, never a Celt, always a fraud. The one from Hearts away 2019, if I'm getting the game correct there. Just for a wee bit of context in case people haven't seen it. Obviously, it did cause quite a lot of discussion online. It's probably a polite way to put it, Tony, isn't it? But at the end of the day, you know, they are entitled to their opinion, as people are that weren't a fan of the post. You know, obviously that banner at the time, it's all relevant. I think a lot of people agreed with that, just the way Brendan Rodgers left, and I've already discussed this quite a lot in articles and on here, saying that at the time I was absolutely gutted and quite angry the way Brendan Rodgers left the club. I think that's probably mellowed over a few years because time does heal a lot of things, but it's their prerogative. I don't have any worries that when it comes to the first game at Celtic Park, they're not going to be supporting the team or anything like that. I think it was just a point being made, but you know, the Green Brigade always bring excellent atmosphere, etc. to games. You know, the tifos and that they've organised. I think it's fair to say that Celtic Park wouldn't really be the same without them, in my opinion, anyway. So I don't really have any doubt that they will be backing the team and the fans when it comes to competitive football kicking off in August, Tony. And I'm sure that you know, if Celtic get a good winning run of games together, including beating Rangers at Ibrox in the first Glasgow derby, which will be more likely within the first kind of 5 or 6 matches next season, then I think there'll be a lot of things forgiven with Brendan Rodgers. But it is still raw for a lot of people, which I completely understand. And like I say, in my personal opinion, I think a lot of what happened during the COVID season with Neil Lennon, etc., that kind of mellowed some of the Brendan Rodgers stuff for me. I can't speak for anybody else when I say that, but I think that kind of calmed it down a wee bit in my head. So I know other people will still maybe be quite bitter about him leaving, which is fair enough. But I'd imagine when he comes in and start winning games, that plenty of people that aren't on side already will be. But at the end of the day, you know, people are entitled to their opinion either way, aren't they? So we just thought it was worth touching on because it was quite a heavy point that was discussed online yesterday. And given, you know, we are a Celtic podcast, that it would be poor of us not to at least touch on it.
I make the point, Aidan, that I always speak for myself as a Celtic supporter when I talk about such matters. Everybody's opinion can be different. Some can, you know, share but we share the same common goal, and that's to see, or we all want to see Celtic do well. You can protest. I get that. There are ways and means of protesting. I just think that at this moment in time, that I think if there is division within the Celtic supporting ranks, that I don't think it's healthy moving forward. Brendan Rodgers has been named the manager for a second time. Might not like it, but going to have to accept it. He signed a 3-year deal. And there's ways and means of protesting in that. And as I say, I would like them to have, you know, protested the way they did and say they didn't want him back, but also I'd like them to add the caveat that they would get behind the manager because they support the club, and that's the constant. Two constants: Celtic fans and Celtic Football Club. And we all know how wonderful Celtic Football Club is. And as you say, if he does get back to winning ways, which I've no reason to doubt that he won't, then I think some attitudes, hardened attitudes, might soften along the way. So, but yeah, I personally speaking, I'm delighted he's back. I thought he was the ideal, outstanding candidate. I spoke about it yesterday. As I say, I had a wee kind of, and I put out a tweet which has been viewed by a lot of people, so everybody knows my feelings on it. And lots of comments coming in about it, Aidan, so we'll try and take some of them as we do. And a lot of people saying the same thing, that the Green Brigade don't speak for them, and that's I get all that. I
They don't say
understand
they
that.
do speak for everyone either. We should probably touch on that, Tony.
Yeah.
They've never said that they represent every fan in the stadium. It's a section of the support, and obviously they've got quite a big following on social media. But the group's never said that they speak for everyone else. Is all I would say as well. Just from people touching on that.
Yeah, for balance, let's for that as well. So, yep, as you said at the start, top programme, they're entitled to protest and make their feelings known, like every Celtic supporter is. But I think moving forward, we have to get behind the man because he's going to do his best to help the team, and that's all that we want Celtic to be successful, to continue their domestic dominance, and also to take it to that next level, which we all hope is on the European stage. I'm going to read some comments here, Aidan, okie dokie, because I've starred a few. So, morning, Gordon Coney, first up. Morning, guys. Like the fact we need to react positively despite what's happened in the past. This is a huge coup for Celtic, and whatever you think of Brendan Rodgers, he is the man that will take us to that next level. Just been saying that. Michael Ross, total solidarity is needed, no division. All Celts need to get behind the manager. Hail, hail. Just been talking about that, echoing a lot of our sentiments. Ian McGuigan, Brendan Rodgers is here for 3 in a row. Brilliant news. Hail, hail. There you go. Morning, Ian. Morning, Kaiser. How you doing? Before Brendan was appointed, I had my concerns, but as soon as the appointment was made, it's time to get right behind the manager and all support the team. Simple as that. The time for debate is over. Yep, totally agreement with that. Brown Warrior, fresh start, clean slate, crack on, Brendan. That's a kind of variation of let's get to work, isn't it, Aidan? I think you would say.
I have a feeling we're going to be hearing that a few times, Tony.
I wish that could have happened to us. That mantra at 10 o'clock. Let's get to work. Somehow technical issues barred us from that, but there you go. Need to call it 11ish now, Tony. Yes, very droll. Derek, thanks for that. Morning, sir. How are you? Regular contributor is Derek. Davey O'Rourke, morning, Davey. Hail, hail, boys and girls. Happy Tuesday. It is indeed. Sons of Scotland, morning, boys. How are we? Jerry O'Rourke, better late than never. Yes, indeed. Derek Crawford, yo, yo, yo. Tony and Aidan, yes, indeed. And Mark Taylor, hail, hail, champions, yes. And Plunge McNugget says, Tony, you never badmouth anybody, mate. You're a big cuddly softy. That true, Aidan? Do I have my moments of my big cuddly softy?
A big name, Tony. That's what I'd tell you.
When they go that far. A big chin, maybe. That's and maybe people that live in glass chins don't throw punches, Aidan. I think I work on that. I work on that premise. Pete McGee, morning, Pete. Whatever Celtic fans think of Brendan Rodgers person, the fact is that in Rodgers, that Celtic have a top manager. Don't worry, be happy. I think that's very true, Pete. Sticks Doherty Music says majority of fans are in the real world and are behind Brendan. I believe that to be true as well. And Sons of Scotland 67 said the appointment of Brendan Rodgers will give Beale sleepless nights. I'm sure he was happy to see Ange go, but Brendan Rodgers as a replacement. Yeah, well, that will all come out in the wash, won't it? But yeah, I don't think, reading a lot of forums and Rangers fans' thoughts, I don't think a lot of them were too enamoured with the thought that Brendan Rodgers was coming back, Aidan.
Yeah, and why would they be given his sort of dominance last time? I know there's been a lot of narrative where he wasn't up against anything in his first spell, but it's all relevant at the time, isn't it, Tony? And
yes.
Rangers, when they got promoted, were saying they were going to win the league that season. They were back, having just coming off beat Celtic in the semi-final. So at the time, it was getting given out quite large. As much as Celtic did end up, obviously, romping the league that season and the following season, and then even the campaign in which Rodgers left, it was still won by, was it about 8, 9, 10 points? So it is all relevant at the time. As much as nobody's going to dispute that Rangers are stronger now, obviously, than they were, back in 2016-17. At the time, it was kind of being positioned as it was going to be a neck and neck title race. So that's what made it so impressive when Rodgers came in, and I think Rangers actually finished third that season, but Celtic were at least 20 plus points ahead of Aberdeen. It wasn't second. So yeah, it's probably an easy argument, an easy sort of point for Rangers fans to throw out, but it's all relevant when you're playing the games at the time.
Most says like coming in, Brendan is going to take Celtic to the next level. Celtic are in position right now. Exciting times ahead. I do believe that myself. Hazel Finn, morning Hazel. Hazel's on board now. She really hopes everyone gets behind Brendan. She's upset with the unrest that she's reading online. Please, let's just go to work. Could be better than ever. Please, yes, a wee appeal there from Hazel. Yep, let's go to work, Hazel. I'm all for that. Indeed, Seamus Gallagher, Brendan's a Celtic supporter, knows what the club's all about, and the Celtic fans should get behind him 100%. I admire his bravery coming back, knowing that that was bubbling away in the background, Aidan, and he clearly wanted to come back when it was put in front of him. He's always spoken about coming back, probably thought it would be further down the line, probably came back a lot sooner than he thought, but certainly I think that he has to be applauded for taking it and walking back into that, knowing that there might still be a section of the Celtic supporters that are not behind his appointment. But yeah, I think, as I said, the only way to turn people round is by winning football matches, winning the important football matches that matter, and improving this team, who are the world record domestic 8 treble winners. So if you can improve that, then I think that'll go a long way to, as Mickey Monaghan here saying, fractured relationships take time and nothing to heal. Very, very good way of putting it, Mickey. Very erudite way of putting it, I think. But I believe that too. And Mo Sislak saying Tony spot on again. I don't know what I said, but I'll take that endorsement every day of the week. And Derek Crawford, at the end of the day, it's a winning team in a part is what we all want, regardless of who the manager is. That's what I've been saying. And David Hughes comes in and says the Green Brigade's banner was classless, he thought. And Kaiser, myself, and Aidan, and Ryan have been talking about the redemption story in this, Aidan, for Rodgers. He has got a redemption shot now, hasn't he? I've put on, you'll see on the site today, if you use a wee link to it, there's some quotes. I've done Brendan Rodgers talking about Celtic in quotes. And in that, Aidan, he talks about the fact that family members had fallen out with him when he left the club and stuff like that. So he does have the ultimate redemption shot now, hasn't he? And to be quids in again with family members, Aidan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Rodgers will back himself to come up and maybe not prove people wrong, because there's an expectation, even from maybe those that aren't happy that he's been brought back, that he is going to do well. But he'll back himself to win the fans over again. Whether or not he'll be able to is maybe another discussion that we'll look at as next season progresses. But it's, he's coming with such a good platform of success. I know Leicester, obviously, it didn't end well, as has been kind of mentioned quite a lot recently, but 2 5th place finishes, an FA Cup. I mean, the fact Celtic are bringing a manager who won the FA Cup, only 2 seasons ago, regardless of what you think of English football, I'm not a fan of it personally, but it's undoubtedly a very, very strong league down there. It's a strong environment to be working in. Surely he's going to come back an even better manager.
Yep.
Given the coaches he's been working against, the players he's been working with. He had some very good results down there, beating Liverpool, beating Chelsea in that FA Cup final, who then went on to win the Champions League. I think it was 1 or 2 weeks later after that. So you'd imagine he's coming back as an even better manager, maybe with a few wee tactical tweaks that will stop it from going a wee bit stale like it did near the end of his last tenure. As much as Celtic were still winning games up until Brendan Rodgers left, I don't think anybody would deny that the football wasn't quite the same that 3rd season that it was in the previous 2 campaigns, and Europe was also a bit of a letdown. So yeah, he'll want to improve in Europe. This is obviously going to be one of the last seasons where, if you are in the Champions League, you might have the chance to drop down to the Europa League. After that, when it's moving to the Swiss format, it'll be very much you'll be in one competition out of the 3, and that'll be it. So he might want to try and do something in that, or progress further in the Champions League. Obviously, I'm sure that'll be his ultimate goal. But if we're just trying to be realistic, based off the sort of building blocks that we're put in place this season, I think if we were to finish 3rd and then go into the Europa League, that wouldn't be that bad, depending on obviously how the group shapes up. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested to see how the transfer business is going to progress now, Tony.
Yeah.
The fact that obviously they've been getting linked with the Norwegian boy, Odin Thiago Holm, as far as we were kind of told last week from reports, that was agreed, and it was going to be sorted this week or next week when he gets back from holiday. So that was obviously a signing that must have been done in advance before Rodgers came in. Maybe he had some sort of say on it. We could only speculate on that, but it'll be interesting to see what players move on. That, like, key players, obviously there's going to be plenty of bodies hopefully going out the door, like Barkas, etc. But in terms of like guys you actually want to keep, hopefully you can see what's happening with them, and Rodgers will be moving into the transfer market with a different recruitment model from last time. I think it's fair to say, with Mark Wall being there. Obviously previously it was his own man, Lee Congerton, that was involved. whether or not it was all their fault with recruitment, it was all Celtic's fault. I suspect it was probably a mix of both. So hopefully it'll be more of a healthy recruitment model this time. And yeah, fingers crossed. I'm excited for the season to get back, Tony. I appreciate some of the players such as Callum McGregor, etc. have still to play tonight for Scotland, and their season isn't actually done, and they still need to actually go on their holidays. But I'm already looking forward to the football coming back permanently.
Yeah, I mean, I've stated quite vociferously on this platform that European football, to quote Martin O'Neill, has to be Brendan Rodgers' benchmark this time around. Because I think if you're doing well in European circles, then the domestic success will follow, that domestic domination will follow, and everybody knows how I feel about that. I can't understand why Celtic can't be competitive both domestically and on the European scene. I've never understood it for years, and I think what does rankle the Celtic supporters, and I've written it, and that'll be coming up in an article that will be coming onto the website either today or tomorrow. It does rankle the Celtic supporters that since 2003, when Martin O'Neill took Celtic to the FA Cup final, that Rangers have appeared in 2 European finals, and Celtic have been kind of nowhere in Europe. The odd kind of going to Rome and winning their group. Europa League group under Neil Lennon, that kind of thing. But yeah, obviously Strachan qualifying with back-to-back Champions League group stages. But those minor successes apart, there's been not much to write home about in Europe. So I really do want to see Celtic get back to that kind of those nights under O'Neill when Ryan always talks about Celtic Park being that fortress again. But Celtic really did compete against the best, and lots of teams left Parkhead with nothing. And I want that. I want a return to that, and I'd love to see Brendan Rodgers given that reign, not much free reign, but a decent reign to go and try and achieve that. I think, reading between the lines and reading from what's been written in the media, Celtic are going to do that. They're going to back him, and it is a different time. I think that's what Brendan Rodgers wanted to do initially, and his ambitions for Celtic in Europe weren't matched by the ambitions of those who were at the helm at the club. I mean, the hierarchy. We've got a different hierarchical structure now. We've got a different way of conducting our transfer business. It will be interesting, as you say, to see if it does continue. I think it will continue apace. I think Ange started the building blocks of the beautiful house. I now think Brendan Rodgers might be the one to try and complete that, and it won't be through the lack of investment or trying to put Celtic back on that stage or up on that stage. And I think, it's very exciting, the thought that everybody's now singing from the same hymn sheet with regards to Celtic being a force in Europe again. It's what we all crave, isn't it? And as I say, if they can do that, then I think the domestic success will keep coming. It won't be trebles all the time because you're a bounce of the ball, a bad decision away from being knocked out of cup competition. I think we can all live with that. Trebles are great, but they're very, very hard to achieve. But I think if you can be completely and utterly competitive in every competition you're in, and I include Europe in that, then why not take it to the nth degree, take us as far as you can in the Champions League. And if it is to be the Europa League, then try and win it. Do what Seville do. Target that. They're the Europa League specialists.
I know we're doing well to beat their numbers, Tony.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
They clearly target the Europa League as a competition that they can win, and that's why they've been so successful, because they realise that they're not at that top tier of teams because they just don't have the resource to win the Champions League. Sometimes you've got to be realistic. Last 16, last 8 at a push is arguably the best Celtic could get in the Champions League. I'd still love to see us get there, but if it's not to be, then go full tilt at the Europa League. Why not?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Tony. And obviously, you want Celtic to do very well in the Champions League next season, but the fact that it is going to be one of the last times, unless you have a horrific league campaign down the line, that you would be able to really play in the Europa League, assuming this Swiss-style format that's coming in over the next couple of seasons does stick. The way UEFA are speaking, they want that to be the permanent way going forward. Sort of try and combat the Super League, etc. But if that is the case, then it's going to be quite hard for Celtic to probably end up the Europa League on the assumption that you're always going to be in and around there competing for the league each season. So if you win it, you're going to be enough. And I think second place would still be Champions League qualifiers. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We would all like to see Celtic progress more in Europe. We know it's not been good enough. I think there was signs with Ange the season it's not long finished. We discussed the frustration at the time, how we felt Celtic should have beat Shakhtar home and away, maybe got something away to Leipzig. In Madrid, that first game, you had a couple of chances and maybe could have been a wee bit closer, but overall, it was still a difficult campaign. If Rodgers is able to sort of bridge the gap a bit at that level, how he's going to do that exactly, I don't know. It's not going to be with the finances, even if he does get to spend more than any Celtic manager ever. It has been sort of touted he's going to get a war chest to bring all sorts of players in. Even if that's the case, financially, it's still not going to be easy for Celtic to compete at that level. But it doesn't mean they can't aim to try and do that. And Andrew's very clear this season that finances that didn't bother him. He was of the opinion that it shouldn't be used as an excuse to hold the team back. So yeah, you'd imagine Rodgers will have a similar mentality. But I think last time, yeah, sorry, Tony.
See, that's my ambitions for Celtic, and I think it's Brendan Rodgers, Dermot Desmond, and Michael Nicholson's ambitions for Celtic. So if you've got all those guys on board, then go for it. See where it takes us. And I think there's nothing wrong with having that ambition. We get that there's financial parameters, but it shouldn't really be an excuse. You just do what you can with what you've got, and the chips fall where they may.
Bring Moose home, Tony. That's what I say. But no, you better believe I'll be on that propaganda train all summer now until he gets a club. But all joking aside, I think even part of the backing he's already received. The fact the backroom team has stayed, Tony, we've not touched on that yet. Obviously, it was speculation yesterday when you and Ryan were discussing it. But the fact they've all remained, they obviously believe in the Rodgers project. As much as I'm sure they were under contract, it's not like near a player. If John Kennedy, Gavin Stratton did really want to move on to Spurs or elsewhere, I don't think Celtic would have forced him to stay. But obviously, they've spoken to Brendan Rodgers and they must be quite happy with what he's offering. Kennedy obviously previously worked with Rodgers, so he knows what he's all about. But Strachan, Harry Kewell, etc. Stevie Wood's also staying. Stephen McManus and Darren Day is part of the B team structure. So it's I was quite happy to see them remaining in the post, Tony. I don't know about you.
Oh, delighted. Lots of comments coming in, just coming in by the dozen, so I'll try and get through a few of them just now. Brendan has been consistent with his praise of Celtic since he left. I welcome him back, and I am right behind him. Yep, JJ McGavie, morning JJ, how you doing? If Brendan stays for 10 in a row and wins a European trophy, he will get the statue and all will be forgiven. A few good runs in the Champions League would be good. No, Brendan Rodgers watches this, so no pressure on you, Brendan. That's all you need to do to deliver, for people, Celtic supporters, to forgive you. The retro Celtic, Tony, do you think Brendan cares that much about one? Some people think, no, I don't think he does. He's far too big for a little guy for that. Yeah, of course he is. I agree with that, which is why he's agreed to come back. Brian Roberts makes that point that you were talking about there, Aidan, keeping the same backroom staff as a big statement of intent. I'm delighted that they've all decided to stay and work with Brendan. There's real continuity there. They know these players inside out. Let's get to work, and you can hit the ground running, Aidan. You know what I mean? So everybody knows the only thing Brendan will have to do is just introduce himself to a new squad of players. But obviously, there's a couple of familiar faces there. Callum McGregor being one of them. Brendan Rodgers is largely responsible for making Callum McGregor the player that he is today. He improved him and Scott Brown no end. So I'm fully confident of, Brendan Rodgers walking in, the gravitas that he has, what he's done in the game so far. It's a win-win for Celtic. I am very excited about what's going to happen moving forward. Paul Byrne, Brendan wants to come back, so when he does leave, he's given the respect he deserves for what he achieved the first time round. That's a fair enough shout, Paul. Yep. And Kaiser coming in, a beautiful house analogy. When building a beautiful house, you need many tradesmen as well as a great vision. Brendan Rodgers has that, and he's watching the transfers intently as they will signal the seriousness of our desires. Now, I wrote last week, Aidan, that Ange left the beautiful house project midway through, but Brendan Rodgers is inheriting weapons of mass construction. See what I did there? And I still firmly believe that he's inheriting a wonderful situation. And I think a lot of the Celtic supporters are on board with that. They feel the same. Paul Byrne saying Ange's beautiful house only made it to the first fix. Time for Rodgers to finish the build. That's
A
the
lot
way
of house analogies. A lot of house
Yeah, but only
analogies,
because
Tony.
Anne's mentioned it. You know, he
Yeah, no,
laid
of
the
course,
foundations and all that. So I think it's in the safest possible hands for Brendan to come in and really complete the job, and I'll certainly take it to a stage further in its development, and that's what I think a lot of supporters want to happen, hope happens, and they're very confident that it will happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, don't want to repeat myself, but the track record he's got, Rodgers, is pretty good. I don't underplay it. Celtic 7 out of 7 trophies on the way to having a squad in place for the treble that he did win, the team did win, sorry, after he moved on. I think we'll be in a good place. He's definitely, and there's been a lot of debate online about this, but in my opinion, and I think you probably do agree, Tony, he's inheriting a better squad than he did the first time round.
Yep.
There was undoubtedly some talented players in the squad. The first time round that he developed, McGregor, Tierney, Armstrong, Brown, etc. Even Forrest, I know he's kind of dropped out of things now, James Forrest, but I think people forget the sort of competition between him and Patrick Roberts on that right hand side is probably one of the strongest positions that sort of right wing role's been in for years at Celtic. It was really, really good in that Invincible season. You could just basically swap either one of them in and they would do a job. So he can clearly develop the talent that's already at Celtic. I'll be really interested to see how he works with maybe somebody like Haksabanovic, for example, who I'm a big fan of, but he's maybe, I don't know if he's lacking a wee bit of fitness or a wee bit of confidence, but he's a very good impact player at the moment, but he struggles to maybe produce for a whole 90 minutes or even 65, 70 minutes. I'd be really interested to see Brendan Rodgers come in and work with somebody like that. We know if these players stay, we know he'll be probably able to improve somebody like Kyogo, Hatate, Jota, etc. Carter Vickers, I mean, they're already phenomenal players. I'm sure he can make them even better. But as much as I'm looking forward to seeing the players he brings in the transfer market, guys like Haksabanovic, Matt O'Reilly, for example, I would love to see him work with somebody like that and improve. And yeah, that excites me probably just as much as actually the players he's bringing in.
Brown Warrior touches on that as well. Morning, Brown Warrior, how you doing? Might Brendan Rodgers want to keep and develop Abada? Now, Abada can blow hot and cold, but if you can get a manager to get the best out of him, and he likes his wingers, doesn't he? You touched upon Patrick Roberts coming in, and when Patrick Roberts blew hot, he blew very hot. Sometimes he could be cold, but he had a lot of injuries. Paddy Roberts as well when he was at Celtic, but when he played and he was on song, he was great. So I think Brown Warrior, that's what brings the best out in Brendan Rodgers. I think he wants to take players and try and make them as close to the finished article as he can. He sees that as his challenge, and I think someone like Abada, Haksabanovic, yourself talking there, Aidan, Matt O'Reilly, Jota, Kyogo, Hatate, can he improve these players? You just listen to that list, and that excites you that a manager like Brendan Rodgers can get into their heads, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and assuming that they all want to stay. In an ideal world, they will all stay. We don't live in an ideal world, do we? There might well be guys that go out the door. But I think the first thing that Celtic have achieved with a managerial appointment is players who will be curious to work under a guy like Brendan Rodgers before they think the grass is greener elsewhere out the door. Because if you're at Celtic right now, you're intrigued to see where Brendan Rodgers can take this team, and I would be inclined to want to stay, despite the fact that I'm on a long-term deal. I want to see what Brendan Rodgers is selling. I want to buy what he's selling first and take it from there. So, yeah, Brown Warrior on your bus, Aidan. Is Brendan aware that Moussa Dembele is on a free? Trying to get the band back together, eh? I know you're beating
Bring
that
him
drum,
home.
but
Bring him home, Tony.
we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of exciting variables for me, and also to see what kind of players Brendan Rodgers himself will bring into the team. You know my thoughts on these matters. You can never get enough good footballers in your team. If you've got a team full of good footballers, you have a good team. You will achieve. Hey, it stands to reason, doesn't it? So Celtic are blessed with a lot of good footballers who the new manager can make better and also bring in some quality footballers to enhance the dressing room that he's inheriting. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it for the moment. But yes, we'll leave it there, Aidan. A tight 35 minutes. Sorry about the time scale, guys. We we did have a few issues there. I hope the microphone worked. I hesitated to call it Magic Mike because there's connotations there, Aidan, with such a. But I hope I was coming through loud and clear on the broadcast. You guys can let me know in the comments to see if we need to tweak it in any shape or form. But thanks very much for your comments. Honestly, you astound me every day. There is that many. I try and go through them as quickly as I can and try and read as many as I can. If I didn't, hopefully I'll get to you at some point this week because I want to hear all your thoughts because it's the biggest talking point in Scottish football right now, the return of Brendan Rodgers, what it means for Celtic, what it means for the rest of Scottish football, what it means for Celtic in terms of hitting that next level, that famed next level that we all hope and dream and believe that the club can reach. I'm the eternal optimist and dreamer. Aidan, you know that. You've sat with me long enough on these programmes, and I'll keep dreaming and believing until Celtic achieve something European-wise. Hopefully it's in my lifetime. The mic sounds good, Tony, says Joe. Hume music, brilliant. Could hear you loud and clear, unfortunately, says JJ McGarvey. Yes, exactly. Unfortunately, sorry about that. Tony, there was no feedback today. It sounded so much better quality with your earphones in, mate. Well, thanks very much, David. We're all coming through loud and clear, Tony. Nice one. Thank you. That's great. That's good to know. Maybe that's the way forward, Aidan. Like Brendan Rodgers said, let's get to work, guys. Let's do it. Thank you very much. I love your contributions. We really couldn't do it without you. Enjoy the community that we've built here, Aidan. They're a knowledgeable and smashing bunch, aren't they?
They are indeed. Thanks very much for the comments, guys. On all the stuff, on Facebook as well, on Twitter for all the articles recently. We know there's been quite a lot of Brendan Rodgers content getting bumped out over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll be able to sort of move on to maybe looking at transfers and what players that will stay at the club over the next couple of the weeks. It was obviously something that we did have to discuss in detail over the last few days. But yeah, no, thank you for all your support on the YouTube. The views have been exceptional. So yeah, cheers.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed today and you'd like to take out a subscription to the Celtic Way, please do so. And thanks to everybody that does subscribe. We value that contribution so much. And as you can see running along the bottom, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you can help support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. Myself, Aidan Macdonald and Ryan McGinley endeavour to provide that. We hope we do. And it's all for the click of a button for unlimited access to the site, everything that's written on it. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a terrific Tuesday. See you all again for a wonderful Wednesday. 10 o'clock-ish, Pete.